Good morning. This is Vishnu Priya, PhD Research Scholar from the Department of Agronomy, School of Agriculture, SR University, Warangal, Telangana. Today I was going to discuss regarding crop production technology of maize or corn. Before going into the topic, what is crop production technology? It is a common agricultural practice followed by worldwide farmers to grow and produce crops which are used for food as well as fodder for the livestock. It includes all the practices from the sowing to the harvesting. Maize, scientifically known as maize, belongs to the family Poaceae. Previously, it is known as Graminae, and the chromosome number of maize is 20, and it is a diploid species. Coming to area production and productivity of maize, according to Agriculture Statistics at Glance 2022, India occupies an area of 10.04 million hectare with production 33.62 million tons, with productivity 3,349 kg per hectare. According to Agriculture Statistics at Glance Telangana 2022, Telangana occupies an area of 0.41 million hectare with production 2.13 million tons, with productivity 5,178 kg per hectare. According to Agricultural Statistics at Glance Telangana 2023, Hanmakonda district occupies an area of 5,000 hectares with production 23,000 metric tons and with productivity 4.26 tons per hectare. As everyone knows, maize is one of the most important cereal crop next to rice and wheat. Maize is one of the most important food, green forage and industrial crop of the world. It is also known as miracle crop as well as queen of cereals. Maize is known as queen of cereals due to its high yielding potentiality among all the other cereal crops, and it is also having lactogenic properties. Maize can be cultivated in all the continents except Antarctica, and it can be cultivated in more varied range of climates than any other cereal crops. The National Commission on Agriculture observed that maize can substantially contribute to the additional total food grain production by increasing its present contribution to 6 to 7% to 10%. Maize can be grown in all the states of India. It can be cultivated next to rice and wheat with regard of area production and productivity. India contributes to 5.4% of total area and provides 1.7% of total production of maize. In India, Uttar Pradesh ranks first in area and production, followed by Karnataka is having highest productivity and Punjab ranks 4th position. And coming to the nutrition importance, maize ranks below wheat and sorghum. And maize is having different purposes in industries. It is used in manufacturing of starch, syrup, alcohol, acetic acid, lactic acid, glucose, paper, rayon, adhesives, dyes, synthetic rubber, artificial leather, etc. And after the harvesting of the crops, it is used and as grilled and consumed as tasty soups, and it is also used to make pancakes. The most commonly used is fermented corn and popcorn, which is most delicious and which everyone likes. It swells and pops up on rapid heating, are much delicious snacks and consumed all over the world. And corn flour, which is mostly used in making recipes, and it is mostly processed into tortillas in Mexico and Latin America. And corn is used in industries in several ways. Grains ground into flour are employed to prepare cornflakes. And coming to the origin and history of maize, maize is the wild relative of theosinate, and the primary center of maize is South America and Mexico, and it has been cultivated from prehistoric times of people of America. In India, major areas of maize cultivation are northern and central parts of India, along with upper and middle Gangetic plains in the states of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, Punjab, and Madhya Pradesh. During 1400 BC, maize cultivation started in both Mexican coasts. When English and German people settled in a new world, they referred maize as corn. The origin of word maize is believed to be from Taino people in northern Antilles Island. The word Taino means maize, which was considered as a source of life. Overall, the maize was transformed into maize. De Candello in 1886 assumed that corn must have originated in New Granada, now which is New Colombo. And theories regarding the origin of maize, there are four different theories. First is the cultivated maize originated from popcorn, and maize originated from its closest relative theosynate, or it may be through direct selection or mutation or by the hybridization of theosynate with any unknown grass. And maize, theosynate and tripsacum have descended along independent line directly from a common ancestor. And the tripartite theory of Mandelsdorf and Reeves in 1939, which postulates that cultivated maize originated from popcorn and theosynate is a derivative of hybrid of maize and tripsacum. The majority of modern corn varieties are the product of admixture with theosynate or tripsacum or both. And classification of maize, there are different types of maize uh, based on the kernel like dent corn, popcorn, pod corn, waxy corn, sweet corn, etc. And the dent corn, scientifically known as Ziames indentata, it is most commonly grown in USA. The most commonly grown maize in USA is dent corn, and dent formation on the top of the kernel can be seen in the dent corn, and which is yellow or white or red in color, and the depression or dent in the corn is a result of rapid drying and shrinkage. The depression formed on the kernel, uh, it is due to the drying drying process of the soft starch. The amylase of soft starch forms core on and cap. And coming to the flint cone, it is scientifically known as Giamese indurata. It is most widely used in India, and the endosperm of kernel is soft and starchy in the center, and the kernel was rounded on the top, but sometimes it is also short and flat. The color may be white or yellow or red blue in color, and flint maize matures early and germination is better in cold and wet soils. And coming to popcorn and floor corn, the major difference between the popcorn and floor corn is the endosperm is hard in popcorn, whereas the endosperm is soft in the floor corn. The popcorn scientifically known as Ziames everta, and floor corn it is scientifically known as Ziames amylacea. Popcorn, it possesses exceptional popping qualities. When the corn heated at 170 degrees centigrade, the pressure built within the kernel and suddenly results in the explosion and grain is turned inside out. The water held in the starch of the kernel tissues turns into a steam, and it is mostly confined to the New World. And floor corn, it is having the soft endosperm, and the color is white and blue colored corns are most common in floor corn, and it is mostly grown in southwest USA and Andean highlands of South America. And sweet corn, it is scientifically known as Giames saccharita. The most characteristic feature is the corn is sweet in taste, and the kernels are sweetest. It before they attain the maturity and after maturity, the kernels become shriveled and wrinkled. It is mostly seen in yellow color and it mostly grown in USA and Canada. It is one of the good source of vitamin C and E. And popcorn, it is not having that much commercial use and it is scientifically known as GMS tunicata. And waxy corn, scientifically known as GMS keratiaculation, and the endosperm of the kernel when cut or broken gives a waxy appearance. It is mostly China origin. Waxy maize hybrids are used to supply the raw materials for specialty products of the wet milling starch industry for textile, paper sizing and corn oil. And coming to the botanical description of maize, maize is a tall, erect annual grass plant. It is having height of 1 meter to 3 meters, and the plant can be adapted to wide-ranging conditions, and the maturity from 70 days to 10 days. The root system of maize is fibrous and deep, composed of several distinctive types of roots. There are seminal roots or temporal roots, crown roots or coronal roots, brass roots or crop roots or aerial roots. Seminal roots or temporal roots consists of radical and number of lateral roots which arise at the base of the first node of the stem. Mainly, first root stem of a plant, it is important for early water and nutrient absorption, and crown root or coronal root, these arise from the basal portion of the stem. It is a main part of the maize plant root system in older plants. And sealed roots are also known as brass roots or crop roots or aerial roots. These roots arise from second, third and sometimes fourth node above the soil surface, and it is mainly important for encouraging of the plant and helps in resisting the lodging conditions. So the primary function of brace roots or crop roots or aerial roots is to encourage the plants. Here is a diagrammatic representation of root system. Seedling appearance 5 days after the planting. Uh, Radical root which emerges from the seed, and mesopotyle, it is a white portion which is help in joining the coleoptile to the seed, and lateral seminal root, it is the first root system of a plant important for early water and nutrient absorption. And the stem is made up of approximately 12 to 18 alternating nodes and internodes, and the number of internodes may vary in plant to plant. On an average, it is having 14 internodes. A leaf is attached to each node, and often a bud or branch arises at a node, and it is having a leaf sheath which is wrapped around the stem, and the function of the leaf sheath was it protect, support and it helpful for the identification. And coming to the leaf description, the leaves of maize develop alternatively on opposite sides of the stem, and each leaf contains thin, flat, and expanded blade with a definite midrib and smaller veins and thicker, more rigid sheath. Here, ligule is present in between the blade and sheath as it is represented in the picture, and it is having the number of leaves varies from 12 to 20, and stomata are present on both the surface of the leaf, both the adaxial surface as well as the abaxial surface. And here is a ligule which is a membranous structure on maize leaf that is present between the sheath and the blade. Here is a pictorial representation, the parts of a young maize plant. Inflorescence. Maize is normally a monoecious plant having two types of inflorescence. The female inflorescence develops into an ear, and the male inflorescence develops into tassel. And the flowers are born on two different parts of the plant. The male flowers are born into cluster on the top of the end of the stem as a terminal panicle, while the female flowers are born inside the young cobs, which is also known as silk, which spring from one of the nodes on the stem, usually located about midway on the stalk. The branches of the tassel are spirally arranged around the axis. The spikelets are usually arranged in pairs, one is sessile and one is pedicellate. Each spikelet is enclosed by two blooms. There are two flowers per spikelet. Each flower contains three stamens, two laudicles, and a rudimentary pistil. The female spikelets have single flower, sessile, and densely packed in several vertical series on the thick and cylindrical branches. The style is a very long silk filament, the clutch, and in cluster. In each plant, tassel usually sheds some of its pollen before the scales of its ears emerges from the husk. Pollen sheds for a period of 1 week. When the pollen grains fall on the silk, then they are trapped by the small hairs and by the moist and sticky nature of the surface. And the gloom is a lower portion and it is having palea and lemma. Lemma is larger than the palea. Here is the tassel and the silk. Tassel is the male inflorescence and silk is developed from the female inflorescence. And kernel or caryopsis, and maize kernel is a one-seeded fruit or caryopsis. The seed enclosed with pericarp consists of embryo, endosperm and remnant of seed coats and nucellus, and the pericarp is mature ovary wall, and the endosperm beneath the pericarp consists of cells filled with starch granules, and it is surrounded by a alluron layer. Alluron layer is a nutritious layer which is present between the endosperm and the embryo. The embryo consists of plumule, radicle and scutellum. And the adoptions and climatic requirements of maize. Maize is generally a tropical plant which prefers warm and humid weather conditions, and it cannot be grown under frost and cloudy weather. It is grown extremely under divergent climatic conditions in different parts of the world as well as different states in India and ranging from tropical and temperate regions. It does not grow satisfactorily in semi-arid regions. It is a short day plant and it is a C4 plant uh, which helps in photosynthesis and it is very efficient in utilizing the solar radiation. And the maize crop is very sensitive to excess water or excess deficit of moisture in the soil, and it is widely cultivated in 3900 meters above mean sea level. It varies with latitudes and it can be grown in sandy loam soils and subhumid climate. To some extent, the crop is cultivated in areas having semi-arid climate provided. Maize can be successfully grown where the night temperature does not below 15 degrees centigrade. It cannot withstand the frost or cold situations, and the optimum temperature required for the maize for the germination is 21 degrees centigrade, and for the growth it required 32 degrees centigrade. The minimum temperature required for the growth and development of the maize is 10 degrees centigrade, whereas the maximum temperature required for the growth and development of the maize is 46 degrees temperature. Below the 10 degrees temperature, the maize cannot sustain and it there will be no proper metabolism in the plant. And the optimum rainfall is 500 to 750 mm during the growth period with even distribution is sufficient for the good cultivation of the crop. And the growing period in Kharif season with onset of monsoon, that is June or July, and harvested in September or October. In Rabi season, it will be sown in from October to January. And sowing maize at about 5 days before onset of monsoon and providing irrigation results in good plant strength and results in high yield. And the soil type, it is mainly suitable for loamy sand to clay soil, but it grows best on well-drained soils. It do not require stagnation of the water or it do not require less amount of water to the crop. However, soils with good organic matter content having high water holding capacity. The best soils recommended for maize cultivation are deep dark silt soils and in semi-arid climates deep soils with heavy texture, and in subhumid climates the best recommended soil is sandy loam soils, and the optimum soil pH should be 7.5 to 8.5, which is neutral to somewhat alkaline pH, and soil salinity and waterlogged or poor drained areas should not be recommended for the cultivation of the crop. And land preparation, ploughing should be done once in the field and twice or more with country plough to obtain the good tilth and to make the soil fine in heavy soils. 2 to 3 deep ploughings may be needed, and the crop generally requires 2 to 4 harrows each, followed by planting. And deep ploughing is helpful to control weeds and for efficient moisture conservation. During Kharif season, the crop needs protection from waterlogging, and shallow furrows should be provided at a certain distance, which should connect to the main drain. The drains must be laid across the slope to control erosion and all caused by the water. And formation of ridges and furrows can be done 6 meters long and 50 centimeter apart, and beds of 5 meters by 4 meters depending on the availability of the water and slope of the land. The best recommended was bed and furrow or ridge and furrow system are suitable in semi-arid regions and subhumid regions. In Dehradun, zinc terracing is most suitable method followed by the people. And sowing time. In northern western Ghats, the best recommended sowing time was April to early May, and in northeastern Ghats, the best recommended sowing time was first fortnight of March, and in peninsular region, the sowing time was May to June, and in northwestern plain zones, the sowing time is May into early June in irrigated conditions, and last week of June to mid July in rainfed conditions, and second fortnight of August in post monsoon. In northeastern plains zone, June to July is best recommended under irrigated conditions in Kharif season, and in Indo-Gangetic plains, 15th June to 15th July is best recommended for the sowing of the crop. And coming to the seed rate, different seed rate is recommended for different sowing of the crop. And 20 to 25 kg per hectare is recommended for hybrids in Kharif, and 18 to 20 kg per hectare is recommended for composite varieties in Kharif. And for intercropping with soya bean, it is recommended that 15 kg per hectare and 10 kg per hectare, and for fodder maize, it is recommended that 50 to 60 kg per hectare. And certified seeds of improved varieties should be used for getting highest yield. And it is necessary to use new hybrid seeds every year. Otherwise, 30% yield loss can be seen. And a plant population of 60,000 to 65,000 per hectare at harvest would be needed to obtain highest yield. And the best recommended spacing is 60 centimeters row to row by 20 to 25 centimeters between plant to plant. And before the sowing, the seeds should be treated with carbendazim or terosol or agrosine at the rate of 3 grams per kg to prevent from seedborne pathogens in the field. And the optimum depth of sowing should be maintained as 3 to 5 centimeters depending on soil moisture availability. If the soil is dry or sandy, it would be advisable to plant in deeper place in the soil. And the method of sowing followed is dibbling and seed drilling. And planting can be done in different ways. Planting on the side of a ridge, planting in narrow furrows, and planting on a flat bed with no earthing up in if it is in case of normal conditions, and planting on flat bed and earthing up at 40 to 50 days after planting, and zero till sowing and reduced till sowing. Weed management plays an important role in the cultivation of a maize crop. Timely weed control is important to prevent the competition between the main crop as well as the weeds for different resources like sunlight, water, etc. And proper and timely intercultivation helps in aeration by loosening the soil surface and ensures good yields. The most commonly found weeds in maize are grassy weeds, Syndon dactylo, Echinoclova colanum, and sedges are Cypress area, Cypress rotundus, and Fimbristylis miliacea, and broadleaf weeds can be which can be seen in maize, cropper, Silosia argentea, Commelina bengalensis, Convolvulus arvensis, Tribulus terrestris, and Solanum nigrum, and Phyllanthus species. These weeds are most commonly found in where in the place where maize is cultivating, and these weeds compete with maize crop for nutrients, water, and other sources, and it results in the yield loss up to 35%. Weed must be controlled during the initial 4 to 6 week period, after which the crop cannot be developed thick enough to smoother the weeds. And maize needs two intercultivation operations, and these are done mechanically by wheel hoeing and animal drawn implements. And mostly earthing up should be followed, and it is done in between the rows to break the ridges and furrows, and in between the two plant rows, and to lose the soil. Plowing in standing crop at 20 to 25 days after growth, it is called as hallowing in western Himalayan regions, which it can be more practiced and helps in uprooting of weeds. And the best recommended pre-emergence application of simazine at the rate of 1.0 to 1.5 kg per hectare in 600 liters water gives effective control of weeds. And for controlling hardy weeds like Bracharia reptans, Arachne racemosa, and Commelina bengalensis, pre-emergence tank mix application of simazine 1 kg per hectare along with pendimethalin 0.75 kg per hectare has been found to be more effective than the application of simazine alone. And water management is one of the most important parameter in the cultivation of the maize. It is more sensitive to both the drought condition as well as the waterlogging condition. So water should be supplied to the crop in optimum requirement by the crop to increase the yield. The most critical stages for moisture stress is flowering stage, that is tasseling stage as well as the silking stage. Up to 40 days after the sowing, the crop is more sensitive to excess moisture, and from pre-flowering to maturity, it remains more sensitive to drought conditions. It has been observed that continuous application of water to the saturation level of the soil for 4 days has resulted in reduction of yield loss up to 50 quintal per hectare. So it is advisable to grow the crop on side of the ridge in areas with poor drainage without having the stagnation of the water and with the optimum requirement of the water to the crop. And popcorn is very sensitive to the drought conditions. If soil moisture is not sufficient to the crop, the crop is subjected to the stress during early vegetative stage, then flowering is delayed. Drought at flowering stage reduces yield, and later stages affect size and popping quality in popcorn. The best irrigation method is furrow method irrigation for the efficient and convenient for the maize crop. Coming to the manures and fertilizers, at, uh, at maturity, half of the dry matter production is accounted for starch in the grain. The percent of NP in embryo of the seed is highest compared to any other tissue of maize plant. As in other crops, a balanced and integrated nutrient management is a pivotal role in maize cultivation. The nutrient uptake depends upon soil fertility status, variety, crop, growth stage, plant density, and time of cultural operations. Maize is fertilizer exhaustive crop. It requires more amount of fertilizer, and the recommended dose of fertilizers are in irrigated conditions. It is 120 to 150 N, 60 to 75 kg per hectare P, and 35 kg per hectare K, and 25 to 50 kg per hectare of zinc once in 3 years. Under rainfed conditions, it is recommended that 80 to 100 kg per hectare nitrogen and 40 to 50 kg per hectare phosphorus and 35 kg per hectare potassium and 25 to 50 kg per hectare zinc one should be applied once in 3 years. Generally for hybrids, it is recommended that 120 is 120 N, 60 P and 40 K and 50 kg per hectare of zinc should be applied once in 3 years. And generally for composite varieties, it is recommended that 80 kg per hectare nitrogen, 30 kg per hectare phosphorus and 20 kg per hectare potassium and 25 kg per hectare zinc should be applied once in 3 years. Coming to how to assess nutrient hunger of maize crop. As the people feel hungry for the food, as well as the maize crop also, the crop also requires food for the growth and development of the crop. It is nothing but the fertilizer. The nutrient hunger symptoms of maize showed as stunted growth in general appearance as well as faded green color of the plant. Different fertilizer uh, deficiency shows different symptoms in the crop. Like molybdenum and manganese deficiency shows dwarfing of maize plants, and coming to boron deficiency, it may be easily be mistaken for iron deficiency where there is general stunted growth and leaves fail to uncurl properly. And in boron availability, low rainfall or drought conditions or in soils with low in organic matter. And time and method of fertilizer applications. There are different times and method of fertilizer application, mainly the basal application and the top dressing. Basal application before the sowing of the crop, it can be done, it should be done, and top dressing it during the vegetative stages of the crop, it is mostly recommended. In case of rain-fed crop, apply all the fertilizers in single dose as basal dressing. Place the fertilizers 10 centimeters away from seed rows and 5 centimeters below the seed. After second and third splits of nitrogen in the afternoon, when there is no dew, fertilizer should be mixed up in the soil with a hand hoe, and immediately after fertilizer application, field has to be irrigated in case of irrigated crop. In case of rain-fed crop, if the N is to be applied as top dressing, there should be enough moisture in the soil, or fertilizer are to be applied after recipient of rain when the soil is in proper conditions. In case of zinc deficiency soil, zinc sulfate at the rate of 25 to 50 kg per hectare as a basal dose to the soil separately and worked in the soil but not along with the basal dressing of phosphatic fertilizers. Basal application of zinc sulfate is superior and more lasting effect than the foliar application of zinc. And during Kharif and pre-Kharif, light or sandy soils, 1 by 4 N is drilled 10 centimeters away and 5 centimeters below the seed row as basal. Then half N is broadcasted between the rows and mixed up with soil at knee-high stage. And rest 1 by 4th of nitrogen is broadcasted between the rows and mixed up with soil at tasseling. And in heavy or black cotton soils, 3/4 N is drilled 10 centimeters away and 5 centimeters below the seed row as basal. And then 1 by 4th N is broadcasted between the rows and mix up with soil at knee-high stage. Coming to the harvesting, hybrids of maize mature within 90 to 110 days, and composite varieties of maize mature 95 to 100 days. And test for maturity is the husk should be turned into pale brown and grains should become too hard to be pressed within fingernail, and the crop may be harvested at about 20% grain moisture, and the plant may remain green when the crops are dry and ready for harvest.